right, welcome to another edition of Yankees Latest Fan Arch Network. Marc Malusis with you. Good Monday, one and all. And despite what happened up at Fenway Park for the New York Yankees, and here's what bothers you. Listen, you hit the airwaves on this Monday morning and talk a little Yankee baseball. What was a disastrous weekend for the Bombers up at Fenway Park. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. I mean, it's difficult to go out there and do what the Yankees have accomplished last 10 games. Number one, they turned a 3-game lead in the American League East over the Tampa Bay Rays now into a 1-game deficit. You wake up on this Monday morning, the Yankees are now a second-place team in the American League East, right? You watch a series up at Fenway Park, especially the finale on Sunday night, a little Sunday night affair on NBC up at Fenway Park, to where you're getting no hit by Sonny Gray into the 8th inning. He finally gives up a hit. You scratch across 2 runs against Aroldis Chapman in the top half of the 9th inning when you're trailing 2-0. You take a 2-run lead after the top half of the 10th inning. And then Cruz comes in basically the bottom of the 10th inning and is like gasoline on the fire as the Red Sox records 1 out. Red Sox walk it off, win the game 5-4. I mean, just a nightmare. To go along with the fact that Yankees scored 2 runs combined in games 2 or 3 of this series. And then you have the start of the series in which Cam Schlittler had 8-9 strikeouts, and the Yankees went out there and made 3 errors in the game and allowed 600 runs. I mean, just an absolute slop fest. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. A slop fest of a series for the Bombers as they come back home to take on the Detroit Tigers. We'll get into here momentarily. But that is, and listen, Yankees, Red Sox, we talked about it on Friday right here on Fan Arch. Yankees, Red Sox aren't exactly what it once was. It really isn't. Going all the way back to when the Yankees collapsed in the American League Championship Series and blew that 3-0 lead, right? The series is not one and the same. However, and the rivalry is not one and the same. However, with all that being said, it bothers you. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Whenever you see Yankees Sox, especially up at Fenway Park, even at the new stadium in the Bronx, you get into it. I mean, they're meaningful regular season games. And then when you have a Boston team that up until this point in time has been terrible this year. They fired Cora early on in the regular season. The pitching staff has been good, but it's been well documented in terms of what they've gotten or what little they've gotten in terms of offensive production. The last thing you want to have happen is that the Red Sox use this weekend as a launching point to the second half of their season, to where all of a sudden they get themselves back into it. As you heard on the broadcast last night, the Boston Red Sox believe that they can get themselves back into this race. I mean, I don't know if they necessarily can, and I'm not going to wake up on this Monday morning after what was a very sleepless night last night in the Malusis household. I'm not going to wake up on this Monday morning and tell you, the sky is falling. The Yankees are going to be a disaster. They're going to collapse here. None of that stuff. It just stinks. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. I mean, it was a bad weekend. I mean, that was it. It's been mostly good weekends. It's been mostly good days. The Yankees are still sitting, north of, 10, 13 games over the 500 mark. They're sitting in second place in the American League East. We've talked about the fact that the American League isn't particularly good. It isn't. Who's going to come get them? We've talked about names that the Yankees have to go out there and get, and we'll get into some of that today as well right here on the Fan Arch Network. But what a terrible weekend. I mean, an absolutely terrible weekend for the Bombers. And you thought maybe, just maybe, you had a little late inning magic last night. Take advantage of the throwing error by the Boston Red Sox in the top half of the 10th inning. You actually got tremendous base running and a great slide, by Volpe, in that 10th inning. And then all of a sudden, to the Yankees, find a way to, in that 9th inning, I should say, to tie the game up. And then all of a sudden the Yankees go out there and, blow a 2-run lead in the bottom half of the 10th inning, give up 3 runs by Cruz, and it's a terrible loss. I mean, just brutal. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just an absolutely brutal defeat by the Bombers. And a great win for the Boston Red Sox as they were celebrating, the lights flickering up there at Fenway Park. Just a disaster. And the other aspect of it is, the struggle for the New York Yankees here is absolutely real without Aaron Judge. Think about this weekend up at Fenway Park. Yankees were 17 for 128 as a team. 17 for 128. They had 10 walks. We have absolutely thrown the bouquets at Ben Rice this year. He's got 22 home runs, 53 RBIs on the season, right? Ben Rice in the month of June is hitting 202. 202. That is brutal, right? Imagine if they haven't had the renaissance of Paul Goldschmidt this year, who's got 14 home runs on the season, right? And Goldschmidt, did his job last night with the drawn-in infield, going out there and making contact, right? But, imagine if you didn't have Goldschmidt. I mean, you had Chisholm getting run out of the game last night. Volpe has been much better offensively. He's not been great defensively. We know that. The Yankees have, offensively now, and now you're starting to see it, right? 3-7 in the last 10 games. The Rays have gone 7-3. What was once a 3-game lead in the American League East is now a 1-game deficit. You might say to yourself, well, Mark, it's late June. It's not August. It's not September. It's not 4 games to go in the season. I get it, right? And you don't necessarily have to win the American League East to have a deep playoff run in October. I understand all of that as well. But now you have the fears, right? Now you have that warm, cozy blanket without Judge, without Grisham, without obviously Giancarlo Stanton, who, you might play a little bit of a game of where in the world is Giancarlo Stanton right now, as we saw the report about a week and a half ago that he had a little bit of a setback coming back from that calf injury. I mean, for as a guy that's built like an absolute Greek god, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton is an unbelievably slow healer. I mean, he just is, right? When you're looking at the calf strain that he is dealing with. And we know Grisham's banged up. He's got the lower body injury as well. And, Judge, you'd like to get him back sooner rather than later, but you got to handle Aaron Judge here with kid gloves as he's dealing with that fracture, lower right rib cage. And you're probably not going to see him for the better part of the next 5-6 weeks, right? So, and you want to make sure that he is healthy as a horse come October. But how exactly does it look here moving forward? Well, the Yankees got an actually well-pitched game last night by Carlos Rodon. They still lost, right? They took a late-inning lead. They scratched across 2 runs in the top half of the 9th inning against Aroldis Chapman. Force extra innings. They still lose. They take a 2-run lead into the bottom half of the 10th inning. They still lose. And then you look at this offense, which was, meek. Is a word. I know the Red Sox have pitched well last 10 to 15 games. That guy, you got hit over the head over the course of the weekend in terms of how the Boston Red Sox starting pitching has gone out there and done their job. I understand that. And listen, give Sonny Gray a tremendous amount of credit. He almost had himself a big-time moment last night, Sunday Night Baseball, NBC. Get it, understand it. However, now you have the fear about what this lineup and what it is not doing and what they are missing. Right? And then you start to compound the problem, right? Talent is talent. You take Judge out of the lineup, you take Stan out of the lineup, you take Grisham out of the lineup, right? And then you look at point of pressure. Well, what about if Goldschmidt starts to cool off? Then what do you do? Well, Ben Rice has cooled off. He's been ice cold. We talked about it. He's hitting 202 in the month of June, right? Jazz Chisholm can be very, very hit and miss. Volpe has been a little bit of a heater, but he has been remarkably streaky, right? You get little to no offensive production from the catcher spot, right? Caballero's a nice player, but he's more of a bit player than anything else. You can't lead on him. How much pressure can you conceivably put on Cody Bellinger on a day-in, day-out basis to go out there and be that guy when you look at this lineup? And then you say, well, the Yankees got to go out there and, be fundamentally sound. They still steal bases, right? They're third in Major League Baseball in stolen bases on the season, right? So you got to go out there and steal bases, but you have to go out pitch teams. You got to go out there and be fundamentally sound. Well, we saw in this series, the Yankees aren't exactly the most fundamentally sound team, right? Not exactly great in terms of sometimes their baseball acumen, baseball IQ, however you want to describe it on a Monday, right? They make defensive errors in the field, right? They have guys going out there playing out of position. We talked about that on Friday right here on the Fan Arch Network. At times, they run into outs on the base pass as well, and sometimes they make throws that they should never make. Right? And last night you saw that from a Red Sox perspective, right? It was almost like, oh, wow. An outfielder go out there, basically try and throw the ball to third base, overthrow the cutoff man, throw it in between third and home, which allowed Volpe all of a sudden to get to third base, and then he scores the run on the drawn-in infield, right? You say, maybe it's going to be a Yankee night. Still, it isn't. So when you have a team, and here's the concern, when you have a team that's very reliant on the home run, when you have a team that doesn't hit well with runners in scoring position, has not been a great situational hitting team. You trust Bellinger. At one point in time, you trusted Ben Rice before we hit June 1st. You've trusted Goldie for the last 5, 6 weeks. He's been remarkable, right? May and June, he's been really, really good. How long is that going to last? The man is 38. Um, so not a great situational hitting team, reliant on the home run. Not a great defensive team. They do steal some bases. I get that. Put themselves into scoring position. Don't take advantage of it. And then at times you get a bullpen that can go out there and be, a little bit leaky, right? And more than a little bit leaky at times, right? That's the other issue you have when you're looking at the New York Yankees. That's why we talk about names like Pete Fairbanks, right? That's why we talk about Genkel. I mean, that's why we throw out names in terms of what Brian Cashman needs to do to address the bullpen here for the New York Yankees. That there needs to be a scenario, there needs to be a situation here for the Bombers to where you need more, a little bit swing and miss guys. And I'm not going to go out there and, absolutely, kill Cruz, on this Monday morning. I'm just not. Listen, it wasn't his night. I mean, he was terrible. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. You're handed a 2-run lead. Bednar went out and, did his job, and Bednar's been really, really good as of late, but he went out there and threw 2 innings. He allowed 1 hit, 1 strikeout through 33 pitches. His ERA is a tad over 3. Cruz comes into the game and is like gasoline on the fire. 2-run lead, bottom half of the 10th inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them being earned, and the Yankees end up losing the game. I mean, it's just, a disaster. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. Just a disastrous loss. And you get to this bullpen and you say, well, you need more swing and miss guys. You need more guys that are going to go out. Maybe it's a LeGrand down the line, right? Maybe it's going to be a guy where, he is a guy that in that minor league farm system that we know that could throw the ball 102, 103 miles an hour. Velocity is his friend. Maybe he ends up being a guy that beats that swing and miss guy. The Yankees believe, there's reports, obviously, that they can turn one of these relievers, one of these starters into a big-time reliever, right? And they can be a swing and miss guy. Be careful, because sometimes that works. Sometimes, obviously, it doesn't, right? And you don't necessarily get the same production, right? And sometimes starting pitchers are a little mercurial, right? A method to their madness. They don't like necessarily coming out of the bullpen. They like to know when they're exactly going to be used, and they might not all of a sudden get the best out of those pitchers when they're being used on a regular basis coming out of the bullpen, right? So that brings up the reliever market and what the Yankees need to do, right? And maybe, a Fairbanks and, their names that are, and we'll see what names exactly shake free from a major league variety. I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, if the Mets are in a sell-off, how do you not make a call to the New York Mets about Luke Weaver and how good and how dominant in what has been a lost season where, we talked about Luis Torrens. I mean, would it be nice to have Luke Weaver, who, I mean, hasn't allowed an earned run in weeks? Wouldn't it be nice to see Luke Weaver back in a Yankee uniform coming out of that bullpen doing what he's doing this year for the New York Mets? And that's the strange thing when you look at the reliever market. And I don't know if they necessarily could get Weaver. The Mets, I think, are going to be in a massive sell-off. I don't think they're necessarily going anywhere. Would the Mets be inclined to help out the New York Yankees and watch the Yankees go out there and win a World Series? Would you have to go out and pay a quote-unquote Yankee tax as it used to have to pay when Brian Cashman was making calls around Major League Baseball? I mean, potentially. But Weaver would be a guy that, I think you would be interested in. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, he has been really, really good this year for the New York Mets. Wasn't last year for the Yankees. The Yankees decided to say thanks but no thanks. He leaves via free agency, and he has been downright dominant. He has been downright dominant. Thoughtful guy, good guy, easy the guy to go out there and root for. Yankees have great familiarity with him. He would be an interesting name to go out there and throw into the mix when you look at that reliever market. But that's going to be something that's going to be addressed. Like if I look at the Yankee needs, and I was doing a show yesterday morning on WFAN in New York, if I was looking at Yankee needs, and we all know them, right? Watching this team, right? You think about it, it's, relievers, catcher, right-handed hitting catcher. We talk about Ryan Jeffers, and do you address the third base situation? Because McMahon, before he went on the IL, just doesn't hit. He can field. He's a ridiculous fielder. And if you asked me to rank him, I'd say the reliever market. I'd say catcher, and then I'd tell you that it would be third base. I'd go reliever, catcher, third base. Reliever, catcher, third base. Can the Yankees address all 3 of those needs by the MLB trade deadline? Probably not. Can they address 2 of the 3? I think they probably can. Can one of the answers come from within? The Yankees believe potentially when you're looking at the reliever market, the catching market cannot. They don't really have anybody. If they did, they would have tried that individual at this point in time, given the lack of production we've gotten and the Yankees have seen from the catcher spot. But Weaver's a name to keep in mind when you're looking at that reliever market, especially if the New York Mets continue to trend in the direction that they're trending. They fired Mendoza on Friday. It's been a disastrous year. Just lost another series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Senga giving up the big home run yesterday to Kyle Schwarber. They're going nowhere fast. Chance of Fire Stearns raining down out at Citi Field. Mets are not going anywhere. They're going to play a lot of relevant baseball for the rest of this regular season, and you could see a massive sell-off. So, listen, for the Bombers, they come back home. Detroit's in town. Mize on the mound for the Detroit Tigers, and he has pitched well this year, 2.95 ERA, 58 innings of work. Ryan Weathers gets the series started for the New York Yankees later on tonight, a 7:05 first pitch. So can the Yankees rebound after what was a lost weekend? Terrible, disastrous? Yeah, for sure, they can. Are there fears now that the initial success when the Yankees were 10-4, 10-5 without Aaron Judge in the lineup, well, they're taking on water. Offense, a disaster this weekend. 17 for 128, 10 walks. Ben Rice has cooled off. He's hitting a tad over 200 in the month of June. You can only expect so much from Goldschmidt and Bellinger. You have to deal with the up and down nature when you're looking at a Jazz Chisholm. And last night was a gut punch loss. No other way to cut it. Listen, sitting there watching, and I say this sarcastically, the all-time great Yankee that Sonny Gray was, flirt with a no-hitter. Then see the Yankees come back with 2 runs against Aroldis Chapman, who despises the Bombers. And then take a 2-run lead going into the bottom of the 10th inning in extra innings. And see some nifty base running. And take advantage of some Red Sox mistakes. And then see Cruz give it up while recording just 1 out as the Red Sox score 3 runs and sweep away the Bombers. Tough. Awful. No other way to cut it. I mean, just a dreadful, awful weekend. The messaging from Boone on point. Listen, you got to go through these things. We're all for it. It stinks. He might have used some more colorful language last night in the postgame up at Fenway Park, but this is what you got to deal with during a long baseball season. He's not wrong about that. It's just tough to digest as a Yankee fan. I don't think there's any question about that. That does it for this edition of the Yankees Latest on the Fan Arch Network. I'm Marc Malusis. Have yourself a wonderful Monday. Yankees open up a series against the Tigers tonight. Hopefully they're able to bounce back in a big-time way. You wake up on this Monday morning, what was once a 3-game lead in the American League East is now a 1-game deficit, as the Bombers are a second-place team. Have yourself a wonderful Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.